I went on Amazon and bought a model ship kit with 0 reviews. In this video, I'm going to build it, paint it, and leave it its first review. Hopefully, I didn't waste my money. This all started when I was flipping through a big book full of beautiful battleships, and I stumbled across the Julius Caesar and got the brilliant idea that I should find a model of it and build it. I went on Amazon and found one. The trouble was, it had no reviews and came from a brand I didn't recognize and couldn't find on YouTube. In my infinite wisdom, I decided to fork over $70 and buy it. So, what comes in the kit? Well, the ship's hull is a single hollow piece. The rest of the ship's parts come in these little cages which protected the brittle resin parts from being pulverized into dust on their way from China. The directions are, I don't even think you can call them bare bones. There's barely anything to them. And they do have some broken English. Hopefully I won't have to amputate any parts. Before I assemble this kit, there are a few glaring issues that I have to fix. The first one is that the hull was torn out of its supports with brute force and looks like it lost a fight with a porcupine. I begin assembly of the ship by clipping away the leftover supports and sanding down some of the divots in the hull. Then it's on to painting. Using my airbrush, I lay down a single coat of black primer. Then, borrowing a page from the Boxman Builds playbook, I lay down some masking tape and prime over it to create raised edges which suggest hull paneling. Unfortunately, I used up the remainder of my 3mm masking tape. The result is pleasing, but I definitely should have put down the horizontal layers first, because now the ship has awkward gaps in the layer lines. Now, I paint the ship's hull. I mix together green, white, and isopropyl alcohol to form a light green anti-fouling paint for the ship's lower hull. I apply it in a single layer. Then I mask off the lower hull and hit the upper hull with one coat of light gray, covering the deck as well. Then I mask off the deck and paint the characteristic red and white stripes on the forecastle deck, using the World of Warships model as a paint guide, since the kit has none. Finishing off the main body of the ship, I paint the deck by hand because I want to. It goes along swimmingly because I have a steady hand and a tiny brush. Next, it's time to liberate all the parts from their supports, complete a few assemblies, and then hit everything with a single coat of primer. The connections between the parts and the supports are so thin that they can be cut with scissors, but it's sometimes difficult to tell what is and isn't a support, and I ended up damaging several parts. Midway through, my airbrush quits. Thankfully, I have a more powerful one that's actually compatible with these replacement nozzles. I finished the parts, but the boat deck is going to be a pain in the butt. I let it soak in the isopropyl alcohol cup to loosen it from its supports, because there's no way I'm getting this out the same way I did the others and not breaking it. I round off the assembly by hand painting all the various little details on the hull and superstructure, like the blast bags and the decks. Next came the final assembly. The tiny parts and the superglue turned this process into a Sisyphean nightmare, during which I crashed out multiple times because the glue made the parts stick to every surface except the other resin parts, and got everywhere, leaving ugly white residue. I didn't finish the tiny, fragile deck fixtures because I wanted to preserve some of my sanity. Some of those pieces should have just been on the hull, like the rudder and propeller shafts, which fit poorly and needed trimming. Also in need of trimming was the main body of the superstructure, which had a wall that prevented it from fitting over its base. I cut the wall off and the piece broke in the process. After this experience, it's going to be at least a year before I even think about building another resin kit. It gets a 5.4 out of 10. This model kit is barely good enough to be put on the shelf and avoid the box of shame.